Woosha, Andrew Embley, I guess majority of the season, but you expect him to play a nice role heading towards finals later in the season?
Well, certainly he'd be back and available, which will be great. Yeah, that's, you know, we look at the time frame we're given, and providing he has no setbacks with other muscle strains and all that, then it'd be nice to have our squad getting back to a really strong, sound list later in the year.
What about the decision of having surgery or playing through pain, possibly re-injuring? How did you go about that?
Yeah, well, the main things to weigh up are with the only having 3 on the bench plus a sub now. If you lose a player early in a game, then you are potentially a little bit disadvantaged if you happen to get another injury at some point. So just weighing that up, weighing up the likelihood that it may dislocate again, looking how easily it came out last time, really meant that there was too much risk of continuous dislocations, so decided to get it fixed.
On that, can you give us an update on Mark McCoskey? You talk about guys coming back late in the season. Is he back in hospital now, is he?
Yeah, he had a high fever, I think, so that generally means there's an infection somewhere. So basically he had to find out what was going on there, and he's coming good now, and expect him out in the next day or so.
Is it any sort of setback to your hopes of having him back towards the end?
No, and so no setback on his time frame coming back, just not nice to Phil Crook.
What about this week, John? Same preparation, even though the opposition we know a lot about, as far as from a competitive point of view?
Yep. No different at all, no. Our challenge is the same as what I talked about last week, consistency of effort, working towards becoming the best team we can be. So yeah, it's a ground we haven't played at before, but that's just another challenge for our players. That does not distract them from playing the football that we're building up towards trying to play consistently.
Any thought of resting any of the senior players?
Only players that are either potentially going to benefit massively from lightening their load over any given period. So, you know, the more senior players like Cox, Glass, Embley, Lynch, we would weigh that up, but most of those guys have had some downtime in the pre-season and the build-up already.
Is there any benefit to be had by effectively shortening the season a little bit for those players by giving them a weekend off this week?
Potentially, but it's still a bit of an unknown. Yeah, we've got a bye in round 11. So that I don't think any of our players they haven't really hit that 33 or 34 year bracket yet. So as much as they're our senior players, at some clubs that'd be some of the younger players. So yeah, it's not as critical for us where we're at now. In a year or two's time for Coxie and someone like that, maybe we would think lightening their load would be valuable.
How about Andrew and Chewy? John, they had interruptions in the pre-season. Is there benefit for them, or do they need game time at this point?
Yeah, again, there could be, but you would weigh that up. So Josh Kennedy, Shuey, Rosa, Gaff, all had different types of preparations for the season, and in some cases the benefit at the moment is getting more ground time into them. In some cases it might be looking at lightening their load. You know, we used Embley as a sub in the first round. So yeah, we have to weigh those things up. They are taken into consideration.
Midweek, where do you stand with players now? I mean, do you have any indication as to what you might do in weighing up the players that have been mentioned already?
Yeah, probably the one that we'd be most conscious of is Glassy, in that finished last season starting to get sore in his groins again towards the end of the year. But feeling really good at the moment, so you've got to weigh that up. Is there value? Is he one that has now a history over 2010 missing a lot of footy with his groin operation, getting sore towards the end of 2011, so he's probably one we're giving most consideration to. The other guys we'll discuss and weigh that up, and a lot will depend on how they feel getting through main training tomorrow.
What do you think? I mean, a lot of teams will probably rest players more often against Greater Western Sydney because it's given, I mean, you might say that an easier game, I guess, but what's your take on resting players against Greater Western Sydney? Do you think it's disrespectful, or your own clubs, each their own clubs, motions are going through this?
Yeah, well, my view is that each club has to make the decision around what's best for them and not take into account other people's feelings too much.
Do you have any concerns about uncompetitive matches? There was probably four to five of the 9 games last week weren't very competitive. I mean, there's a likelihood of there being a few with the new team.
No, I don't. I think we all understand that the new teams are very young, and in any given week they can have a blowout game. They lose a couple of senior players, they become younger. They're only generally replacing a senior player with another 18-year-old. And it's just part of building 2 new teams into the competition in the way that we've done it this time around. They don't have a lot of senior players on their lists, and but they will have in 3 or 4 years' time. So those margins will become less and less as time progresses.
Saying that, John, with an unfair draw, the way the competition's featured, there are some sides that will benefit from playing against them this year. Teams that you could be competing against when it comes to the business end of the season. What's your spin on that? It's taken the focus of some teams not having to travel now. We've got the other issue. So, there's Melbourne-based teams that play a lot of their games in Melbourne. We call them home games. They don't have to travel as much as the teams based out of Melbourne. There's 2 new teams in the competition, so the way the draw falls, playing the younger teams in the comp may be an advantage for 1 or 2 teams per season, but I don't think it's going to have a massive impact. I know Nick Natanui and Israel Folau are doing some promotional thing later in the week. Sheets came out a couple of weeks ago hoping that they line up against each other and play a lot of time on each other. Is that a possibility, or is Sheets using that as a bit of a gimmick?
Well, I think Israel has played in the ruck, and Nick will play most of his game in the ruck as well. So there is a possibility that they could be rucking against each other, chasing each other around the ground. But Nick will just play the role that he's working on becoming elite at it with us.
Have you scouted them much?
As much as we can, yeah, pretty much like any other team. I would think we've got a fair understanding of the makeup of their team.
So what do you make of them so far?
Well, just a very, very talented group of young players with some senior players in there helping teach them, guide them along. But there's no question about the talent within their list.
Has there been any players on their list that's caught your eye?
Well, as I said, there's a lot of real talented young players on there, and a lot, some of their small forwards, their half-backs running. Obviously with a guy like Scully in there, they've got some great young talent.
Just back on Andrew Embley, John, do you feel like you're in a good position to be able to cover him with the depth that you've got in the midfield?
Yeah, definitely. We spoke about it when Lacroix went down, that we've got to become a team that has great depth on its list to be able to continue to play a really strong brand of football. So with Embers out, it gives opportunity to guys who, I think are good enough to be very good AFL footballers.
Is there anyone standing out that could come in this week?
Well, that's another tough part because of that depth. It's not just 1 or 2 players pushing up. There's a number that could easily come in this week.
How about his program? How soon can you run again?
2 weeks, I think, running maybe. I'm just trying to think I've got an outline of it, so might have been 2 weeks on the bike and then about 6 weeks back running.
Is it almost an advantage to get an upper body injury because if you keep that fitness base going and the transition is easier once you get it?
I think so. I think it makes the transition quicker. So an injury that keeps you out, if he says he can't play for 10 weeks, but he's back running, he'll have his running fitness up, then it's just a matter of getting him ready to go, full on body contact. Whereas leg injuries, you do have to condition yourself again.
Do you set out to absolutely smash GWS maximised percentage, sort of with the view that may count for something later in the season, like it may end up being the difference between a home final and an away final?
No, my view will be to play the consistent pressure football that we've been able to display, most of last year and in the first couple of rounds this year. We're still challenging our players to improve in certain areas that we've got to get sharper at. So that's our focus points. And if we do that and win the game by 25 points, I'll be happy. So that's really around the brand of football we're looking to play and challenge ourselves to maintain that and keep aiming to improve it.
What about the mindset of the playing group then when they're coming up against a struggling side? Obviously during your playing days, I think it was Sydney Swans a few seasons there where they got the wooden screen. What is the mindset of the players going into those matches?
Well, the mindset of our players will be to go in and they've got a role to play and we want to challenge them to play it at the elite level. That's what we're aiming to do, is become one of the most consistent and talented teams in the competition.
But as Duff just said, do the players get together and go, all right, we set a minimum standard here, 80 points, 90 points, whatever it is. Do you guys ever get together like that back?
No, we just, we're same focus. We're with Mick coaching us back then, in the area of the ground I played in, the focus was on just really nailing the opposition, making it very tough for them to score. But no view of how much we were going to kick. Summer might have had some other things going on down the other end, but didn't talk to him that much.
Okay. John, is this the first game you've gone in as a coach knowing that you'll win?
I go into every game seeing the absolute talent in the opposition and seeing the potential they have, and showing great respect to that. So I'm not going to be comfortable at any time this week that we've won the game until that siren's gone to finish it.